2023 marks a pretty significant year for many of the mainstream motocross manufacturers, with big changes across many of the 450 lineups. And here we have two of Japan's biggest juggernauts. The CRF450R has a big change for 2023, stiffer frame, smaller throttle body, revised suspension and electronics. So how does the CRF compare against the unchanged, more affordable, yet much loved Kawasaki KX450? We've got the Appen motocross circuit at our disposal, an intermediate rider in me and a pro on hand with Glenn Carney to see which of these machines is best. Let's get to it. The 450 motocross segment is teeming with new options from Yamaha, KTM, Husqvarna and Honda for 2023, not to mention some great carryover machines from other mainstream manufacturers. Here we've selected two of the category's most popular machines. The CRF450R and KX450 both hail from Japan and have shared success in all levels of motocross, both locally and internationally. It's the Kawasaki that offers an immediate pricing advantage on paper, but there's a good reason why. So we've assembled the Kawi and the Honda today, but you might be asking yourself, where is the new Yamaha YZ450F? We attended the launch for that recently and we're really impressed by it, but we're about a month early with this comparison test, so we will revisit the Yami once we've got it in our hands. But as for changes for 2023, this really gets the lion's share of them. In fact, it gets all of them in this comparison because the Kawi is largely unchanged. It hasn't had any significant changes for a few years now. In terms of the Honda, it gets a narrower intake port, 2mm smaller throttle body, so it's now 44mm, steel engine hangers and a reinforced frame. The brief here for Honda was to make the CRF more forgivable, more rideable for different abilities, and we indeed found that that was the case when we attended the launch just here a few months ago. So really interested to see how the Honda fares in this comparison test. When it comes to electronics, the Honda wins it hands down in this comparison because it has three-stage mapping, it has traction control, it has a launch control system as well, and best of all of it is configurable from the handlebars. Going over to the Kawi cam, as I said before, it hasn't really changed in a lot of years, but it is $1,300 cheaper in this comparison test. That is a lot of freight that you're saving up front, and that's money you could potentially put into suspension or aftermarket accessories. So I think there's a lot of merit to this bike, and it's not like it's old hat in any way either, because it has the basics covered. A 49mm inverted shower fork, MX-33 Dunlop tyres, hydraulic clutch. All of that is shared with the Honda as well, so it's very close. But there are some disparities with this bike. It has engine maps, but unlike the Honda, you have to actually pull out the physical plug near the head stem here and change it. Whether that's really a deal breaker to riders, recreational riders, remains to be seen. Because I have a feeling that once you pick a map, you generally stick to it. That's kind of what I do at a track anyway, so I don't really know whether it's a deal breaker. If we consider all of that, the Kawi is really the underdog in this comparison, and it probably doesn't deserve to be. So let's go out on circuit and see which one's best. Well, what a day. We had a bit of everything. Typical Appen, bit of mud in the morning, then it was hard and skatey in the afternoon. We're fortunate enough to be joined by professional off-road racer Glenn Carney. Hello Glenn.
How you going, mate?
That was a pretty cool day.
It was a great day.
What we both noticed, and I think Glenn's on the same page here too, these are two very different motorcycles.
They are. They're both great bikes out of the box, as we spoke about, but both have a completely different feel. One slightly more racy than the other, and the other a bit more comfortable initially to begin with. Yeah,
for me, we'll get into more detail with you, Glenn, because you do pick up a lot of things that an intermediate rider doesn't, but jumped on the Kawi, it feels like a long motorcycle. It's stable, particularly in the front. There's, even as the surface here gets with off-camber corners and gets skatey and stuff like that, you never feel like you're going to tuck the front on this, do you? It's quite good. The power's mellow, definitely doesn't have the same horses as the Honda, but as a bike out of the box, it's $1,300 cheaper. Yes, it misses out on a few things, but there's a lot of merit in this, isn't there?
Yeah, definitely, and like we spoke about before, you know, maybe with that 1300 you save against the Honda, you could invest it into the bike and get on a similar platform. But like you said, very stable, very comfortable. I think the average punter would really feel comfortable straight away on this bike. It's really plush, really soft, fairly well balanced. We ended up tweaking it a bit. As you said, there was varying conditions all day. It was really hard pack and skatey this afternoon. And like you said, didn't have any trouble with knifing the front on it, but I did have a bit of trouble getting it stopped and turned, so I ended up pulling the forks up through the clamps a little bit, trying to weight that front end and get the turns easier, which in comparison to the Honda, it feels really racy and quite knifey, very agile. Also changed direction really quickly, so a bit more of a racy feel for me on this one and a bit more of a comfortable all-round sort of feel. Same with the power, like you said, this thing is very mellow, and these things have got more horsepower, but at the same time are mellow and responsive. I found I could change direction and sort of pinpoint the line I wanted in the corner. I could move wider and hit the apex where I wanted on the Honda a little easier than I could on the Cowie. And that's probably along the lines of, you know, geometry and everything. Of course it is, but also the ergos are the thing. I feel like I can move around a little easier on the Honda with how slim it is. I had a few problems with the Cowie, nothing major, but being short in stature, it's very important for me to try and weight that front wheel when it's really skatey like this. And the header pipe on the Cowie just sort of caught my leg a bit. It sticks out a little bit past the clutch cover, and just some little things like that, you know, but all could be tweaked and you know, make life easier. I feel like you've got to ride the Honda. You really need to be on top of your game and sort of to use it to its potential. So for the average punter that maybe doesn't get out every few weeks, you know, it's a month or two between rides, they may find the Cowie a lot more forgiving.
Yeah.
So yeah, pros and cons, and you know, we did some lap times actually just to finish off, just to get a feel for it, because I really felt a lot faster on the Honda, and there was nothing really in it in the lap time.
The Honda's quickest lap time of 2 minutes 21 seconds with Glenn aboard is the fastest of the afternoon, and our times show it is consistently 2 seconds a lap quicker around Appin, ridden back to back with the Kawasaki. Away from the circuit, it is the Honda that edges ahead with its overall finish, with stronger plastics and superior plastic alignment, better standard handlebar grips, plus additional protection for the front brakes, chassis rails and underbody. Both bikes feature Renthal fat bars as standard, offer line ball braking performance, and are separated by a mere 400 grams when thrown on the scales. It's tight, but in the end, there can only be one winner.
I don't think anyone would be disappointed if they walked out of the showroom with one of these on the back of and put it on the back of their ute for a go for a ride.
If you had to pick one, Glenn, what do you reckon?
For me, it's the Honda. Pips the Cowie just on a few little things here and there, and yeah, that sort of gets it over the edge for me. Mainly the way the power is delivered, and then just how easily it can change direction.